Sometimes, one company can disrupt an entire industry by focusing on creating positive impact for people and the planet instead of only focusing on profit. That's what Lemonade Insurance decided to do when it first launched, to make impact over profit a core part of its DNA. Whether it's their B-Corp status or the $6 million they donated to nonprofits over the last 6 years, Lemonade is leading the way and now influencing how other insurance companies are approaching their business models. Today, I speak with Nina Rauch, Senior Social Impact Lead at Lemonade Insurance, and we discuss Lemonade's multifaceted approach to doing good. As it turns out, even the oldest industries in the world can be disrupted for the better. I hope you enjoy the episode. Hey, Nina, thanks for joining the Sustainability Champions podcast. Great to have you on the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
That's awesome. Thank you. Well, the way I like to start these conversations is by taking kind of a step back and doing a broad overview of Lemonade and what you do, just so we can get a big picture view. So what is the kind of elevator pitch, if you will, for Lemonade Insurance?
Definitely. So Lemonade is an insurtech powered by AI and social good. We have an alternative business model that is basically disrupting the insurance industry. So unlike traditional insurance companies, a big portion of our underwriting profits go to nonprofits that Lemonade customers choose, creating this extended philanthropic arm of what Lemonade does. So I really feel like we're creating a differentiator in the insurance industry and a better and alternative option for customers that are more concerned with social impact.
That's amazing. And so what's really cool about it is that first of all, you are doing that and you're disrupting the way that insurance works. Is insurance companies are extremely financially profitable and it's a great business to be in if you're looking to make a lot of money, but also provide, I think, a great service because insurance is really important. And we can go through that. But I think what's really cool specifically is that you're not just taking a portion of it and saying, hey, this is just going to charity. You're actually letting the customers pick where their dollars go, I guess. So how does that part work?
Definitely. I mean, I think that's a really important part of doing charity in the times that we live in, is kind of giving that ownership back to the consumer and allowing them to choose where the money goes, as opposed to just a company kind of dictating where the donation goes, which is the traditional philanthropy model that we see with most corporates. So the way it works is once you enter the app and you've taken out a policy, you then get to choose a cause from around 100 different nonprofits around the globe. And you can choose the sector that you feel most connected to donate to. And then that will be that nonprofit that you have a continued relationship with. And I really love that because I get to see, more about what our customers care about. I can kind of get a read on where they're passionate and also see the changing trends as well in nonprofit space.
What out of those 100 nonprofits, what kind of nonprofits can people donate to?
So we work with around 6 different sectors. I want to say health, climate, racial justice. We do a lot of work in the animal space, so animal protection space, also donating to global poverty and also developmental nonprofits like Charity Water and New Story is an incredible home building organization. So there really is a wide variety. I think there's something there for everyone, and that's an important part of what we do. So, for example, we also work with March for Our Lives, which is the youth-led gun prevention organization. So it really reflects the stances that we've taken as a company. And I think diversity when it comes to philanthropy is really important. And that's something I'm pushing forward at Lemonade.
And diversity being like different kinds of people as opposed to different types of nonprofits.
Exactly. And also different types of people like different types of nonprofits. And you need to be able to create that connection for your customer.
And are you looking to basically stick to 100 nonprofits as your kind of amount, or are you looking to expand it and just keep growing the choices?
The ideal would be to continually expand the nonprofit choices, but I also want to make sure that we stay true to who we are as a company and what we stand for. So any nonprofit that I onboard, I make sure that they meet our regulatory standards and also that they align with us as a company.
On that point, one of the main criticisms that I've heard about nonprofits is that, you know, companies aren't really using the funds correctly, and or they're misusing them, or not enough goes towards the actual impact, or they're paying their CEO too much. I mean, there's all sorts of criticisms, and lots of people choose to not donate to nonprofits specifically because of those reasons. So you mentioned, you know, vetting and regulatory and all of that. Is that kind of part of your process to make sure that the nonprofits you're working with are indeed making a good impact and utilizing their funds appropriately?
100%. We have around 9 to 10 regulatory documents that we ask from a nonprofit before they're onboarded. We also do a deep dive into overhead costs, how the company is run, structural complexities, and then I'll also look at dollar to dollar impact. So every year we bring out our annual impact reports where we track our donations, and I want to make sure I know exactly where our money has gone and I can track that via the nonprofits that I work with. So even though I know people can be critical of the nonprofit sector, I think our role as for-profits is to uplift and support these organizations as much as we can. And definitely the better ones deserve to be put forward. So I'm really proud of all the charities that we work with. I feel very confident in them. I also think if you are, you know, balancing this delicate role of distributing consumers' money that has been, you know, selected to be donated to a nonprofit, you have to be responsible that the nonprofits you're working with are doing the right thing with these donations. So I really feel that heavily and I take it seriously.
And I agree with you. And I think also just from the point of view of, you know, Lemonade's, you know, business concept, if you start working with nonprofits that are questionable, it completely undermines the entire work that you're doing and all the impact that you're hoping to make.
Also, we're a B Corp, and you know, B Corp itself has its own strict regulatory requirements that it asks. You know, you're almost legally committed to this bottom line. So I feel that all those aspects combined mean that we're very on track with the nonprofits that we work with.
Yeah, and just on that point, I'd love to learn a little bit more about the B Corp status and what it means and really what it takes. Because to be a B Corp, I mean, it's becoming quite popular, and thankfully we're seeing it more and more. You know, if you ever go to like a health food shop, half of the brands there are B Corp, it seems, which is great. But it's no easy feat to become B Corp certified, and it takes quite a lot of maintenance. So are you able to talk a little bit about what is a B Corp status and what it takes to become one?
Definitely. We're actually in the process at the moment of recertifying for the third time. And I can tell you, it does not get easier. The first time we certified, we were a company of around 6 people. We were one entity. Now we're over 1,000 employees with several offices. And obviously what B Corp does is it, you know, checks the data of your energy usage, your carbon footprint, your waste management, green building standards, philanthropic efforts. The list goes on. I think the assessment is around 82 questions, and it digs into every, you know, employee rights, what you stand for as a company. So it's a really rigorous process. And while it is incredibly difficult as an undertaking and a lot of work, I'm very much kind of energized and encouraged by the fact that this system exists, because it makes me believe that when you see that B Corp symbol, you can actually trust that brand. And I think if I wasn't on the inside of it, and if I wasn't seeing the process firsthand, I might dismiss it or be critical of it or just think it's like another label. But actually seeing firsthand how much work goes into it and how you cannot, you know, get away with anything. Like they really are checking every aspect of your business. It's very encouraging to know that boards like this exist.
Yeah, that's fantastic to know. And I do remember I spoke with someone on the podcast. This was probably a couple of years ago now, because I think they were either getting certified for B Corp or they had just gotten it. And he was explaining that, like, maybe he was exaggerating, I don't know. So I'm double checking with you, but he was saying that they basically had to start tracking the amount of trash they were throwing away and how much of it was recycled. And like they were literally and what?
Hazardous waste as well.
Oh, really? Yeah, exactly. Right. But I guess if you're a business that deals with that, I just remember this visual when he was talking of like a like a trash can in their office and someone coming in with a clipboard and like peering in and writing it down. I just remember as he was talking, that was the visual I got. Would you say that that's like kind of
Yeah, I
accurate?
would say that's pretty much an accurate description of what's going on in our offices right now as we track our trash, square
Wow.
meters of recycling through our offices. So yeah, they are digging into every aspect, especially our trash.
Are you actually personally involved in this process?
Yeah, I lead the process. So I really
Oh,
do
wow.
see how in depth it is. And we're working throughout our 3 offices at the moment. So our US office, EU, and also throughout the UK. So it's also interesting to see how we have to answer to different standards in different countries. So obviously EU has brought in a lot more regulatory requirements, especially around sustainability and office building standards. So it's a pretty difficult process, but I will be happy when we get there. And I know I'm confident that we will. And like I said, it's just a nice feeling to know that you can actually believe in the movement and that you know that any company that's earned that stamp has really done, the work that it needs to do.
Yeah, and I think it's really important that you said that because I think you're absolutely right. Especially some of these there's just a lot of labels now,
Yeah.
and it can get really confusing. And unfortunately, with greenwashing, it doesn't make it any easier because some like just thinking about a simple example, if you go to if you buy like a beauty product, let's say, or even a food product, and it says natural, what does
Mm-hmm.
that actually mean? It's so vague. It's a marketing term, but and even then you start getting these labels and it's just confusing. But when you see that little B in a circle, that, like you're saying, it really should elicit a lot of confidence from the consumer or client because, like you're saying, it's a lot of work to do, and it really means that there's some serious business and thought and effort going into actually getting that little stamp there. So, but out of curiosity, why is the B Corp status so important to Lemonade? I mean, why are you going through all of this just to get that little B? What does it mean to you and the organization?
We were actually a B Corp before we even sold our first policy. And I think that's
Hmm.
just a continuous reflection of how we think about impact. It's embedded into our business model. You can't separate the two. You can't separate social impact from our product because it's really what we stand for and will continue to stand for. So the B Corp certification is just every year a reminder of who we are as a company. Are we doing the right thing? We kind of use it as our guidance to make sure that we're on track both externally and internally as an impact company. And actually, B Corp, when you're filling out the assessment, you're working in line with the SDG goals as well. So it's a
Mm.
great guidance for companies that are trying to stay on track. And yeah, I think I see B Corp very much as the foundation of what we're doing and just guides us as the company grows. I think it would be very easy to lose sight of what impact looks like at Lemonade. I mean, you're growing, from a tiny group of 5 people to 1,000 plus, and your product is, growing in the same vein. You might easily say, okay, well, impact might slightly fall to the side, but B Corp is a continuous reminder that we actually can't do that. And it holds you accountable. And I think that's why
Mm.
it's, super important.
Hmm. Um, what are SDGs?
It's a good question. Sustainable Development Goals, they are outlined by the UN. And obviously, you don't have to oblige to them as a company, but I think it's really helpful to have them just as kind of a guiding light. You can kind of select the ones that you want to lean into more. So Lemonade is focusing and has always had a strong focus on the climate and sustainability. So those are the goals we're trying to increase our leverage in. But every company will kind of approach the assessment differently. This is just something that I like to see as a good reference point for me because it also allows us to situate Lemonade not only as just a for-profit company, but part of a larger movement. How are we moving forward? What goals are we working towards? That's just why I personally find it helpful.
Hmm. Yeah, and SDGs, the sustainable development goals, are a really, I think, useful metric. There are 17 of them, and like you said, yeah, there are different sort of areas that are just important as part of these, and the word, I think, sustainable within that phrase of sustainable development goals, it's not just about sustainability in terms of like the environment, which is the typical way I think people think about it. It's more, how can we live in a sustainable way, like financially sustainable, in a way that's sustainable for people's happiness in the long term. And that's why the goals are quite a broad range, like you're saying, from climate and sustainability to water to education, and it covers a lot of grounds. And it's great to see that covers a lot of grounds rather. And it's great to see that the B Corp certification pushes that forward as well. I didn't realize that. That's very cool. And you mentioned a little bit ago about this annual impact report that Lemonade puts out. What is the latest impact figures that you have in terms of how you're actually, all this work that you're doing? Are there any high level figures that you can provide demonstrating what you've accomplished?
Definitely. So last year we marked 6 million in 6 years, donated to around 100 plus global organizations.
Wow.
We've done some incredible work. I would say, just because we're on the Sustainability Champions podcast, I'll focus more on our climate work. So we've donated almost $900,000 directly to 17 different climate organizations. We've planted around 280,000 trees via American forests and 1 tree planted. We've trained climate activists all over the world with 350.org. And we're also very involved with Insure Our Future, which is a campaign to divest from coal and fossil fuels. We were actually the first US insurer to publicly commit to divesting and not investing in coal and other fossil fuels. So those are, one of the key impact stats that we're really proud of. But, the list really goes on. We've donated around 18 water projects via charity water, providing clean water to thousands of people. I feel very proud of the work that Lemonade's done when it comes to the Giveback.
You mentioned that Lemonade is the first insurer to divest from oil or from fossil fuels. Why is that? Sorry, say again.
To not invest, yeah. We would never
not invest.
We took a stance to not invest.
Yeah. Okay, and why is that such a big deal? So, yeah, go on.
No, it's such a good question. It blew my mind when I joined Lemonade. I come from the nonprofit sector. So I was working for WaterAid, which is a water charity prior to Lemonade. And I had no idea about the impact that the insurance industry, not Lemonade, but other insurers have on our climate. So the 40 largest US insurers hold over $450 billion, I want to say, in coal, oil, gas, electric utility stocks, and bonds. So they hold a huge proportion of their investments in fossil fuels, larger than average index funds, which is terrifying if you think about it, because as an insurance company, if you're insuring oil and coal and gas, you're essentially driving the global warming crisis. And this is what is directly impacting your policyholders. And as an insurance company, you have an obligation to be protecting those people living in regions that have an increased risk of uninsurability or climate risk. So when I, joined Lemonade, it was made clear to me very early on that Lemonade would not be, involved in this movement in that way. And we actually took a stance to be the first US insurer, like I said, to not invest in fossil fuels. And we've joined together with an amazing nonprofit called Insure Our Future. I really recommend checking them out. They have essentially gathered together US insurers and also EU insurers now to help other stakeholders move away from investing and to invest in a cleaner future. But yeah, I had absolutely no idea the impact that the insurance industry was having on our climate. And I think it's, really important that Lemonade is taking a stance and spreading that message.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And thank you for sharing that. So just based on that last comment about what Insure Our Future is doing, are you aware, have other insurance companies, I imagine it's going to start with the smaller ones, but have others followed suit in terms of either divesting, or if new companies are coming on board, they're also choosing to not invest in fossil fuels?
Yeah, Insure Our Future has actually been really successful, and we've supported them with open letters. We provide consulting opportunities. So if other insurance companies are looking into divesting, so obviously it's a scary concept and it could risk your profits, they can come and talk to us at Lemonade about it. And we have seen other insurers dropping off and making similar decisions. So I think, advocacy really works. And I think you see that particularly in the climate space.
Yeah, I think it's also, I mean, advocacy, like you're saying, really works. I think it's probably one of those things where someone just had to do it first, and then and now all eyes on you, sort of a thing, and seeing like, can they make it work, and or what's going to happen. And slowly, the smaller companies, the new companies are coming in and following suit, and then eventually it'll start trickling up and we're seeing it with everything, like smaller companies are the ones, going back to food because it's just the easiest example in my mind. The smaller companies are the ones who are creating all the like organic things and using regenerative farming things, and it's going to take a while for the huge organizations to catch up, but there's that trend, and they're following. Lemonade is you said it's disrupting the insurance industry, which I think is really cool. I love disruptors, and that's ultimately what Sustainability Champions is all about, is highlighting people who are finding innovative ways to solve environmental challenges, and disruption is a crucial part of that. In my mind, when I first heard about what was going on, rather not what was going on, but what Lemonade was doing, I didn't really think like insurance and sustainability go typically hand in hand as a way forward. But based on what I'm hearing, it's really cool to see how you're doing it. With that in mind, is there any, I don't know, is there any lessons or any things that other industries can do or learn from what you've done at Lemonade in order to start really pushing the needle, if you will, on how they approach sustainability? Because again, insurance and sustainability are not really my first thought. So I'm sure there are other industries out there where it's similar, but it certainly can be done.
Yeah, I think the most important thing when approaching sustainability as a for-profit, especially in a sector where you might not assume it's even relevant, is just trying to make it part of your business model. So not thinking of it as an add-on or an afterthought, but how can we think about sustainability when we approach any product development, any growth within our company? So as Lemonade grew, so did our Giveback, and therefore so did the opportunity to donate to climate organizations. And we never lost that. Same as we expanded our product line. So we moved into car insurance. Cars are not good for the planet. We know that. But how can you build a product, as an impactful brand that still has the environment in mind? Well, one of the things that you can do is create an initiative, a sustainable initiative that can support this product launch. So what we did is we started our tree planting initiative, which plants trees as our drivers drive based on their mileage. So that's just a very easy way of thinking about how, as you expand and grow as a company, how can you still keep sustainability kind of guiding you to do the right thing? And I think that's a good example of it.
Yeah, and thank you for that. This is just a sheer curiosity question. Do you feel like there is a lot of pressure on Lemonade to continue leading the way, since you see yourselves as a disruptor, and indeed you are kind of changing the way the insurance industry can work?
I hope so. I mean, I feel the pressure in a good way, because I really hope a lot of companies start thinking similarly. Like, I have said this many a time, and I really actively believe in the role of for-profits as making the world a better place. I mean, I think you shouldn't be able to separate, non-profit and for-profit work in the clean way that we do. Actually, for-profits should feel responsible to make an impact, just like non-profits do. So I hope that Lemonade continues to kind of lead the way and other companies follow suit. And we're very open to the conversation. So any companies that want to reach out are more than welcome to. We're not holding on to it. We're not precious about it. We very much want other people to copy.
That's awesome. Well, and I'm glad to hear that, because frequently, it's your secret sauce. So we're going to keep this one to ourselves, but you're very open. And I agree with you 100%, by the way. I personally think the phrase I somehow started saying some time ago, which I'm not sure if I fully believe in, but it kind of captures the point, is if businesses got us into this mess, then businesses can be the ones that get us out of it. And so I think to a certain degree, for-profits have a much bigger responsibility than nonprofits, because they're the ones nonprofits require donations to make an impact, whereas for-profits sell a service or product or a benefit to someone, to their customers. And so if they're able to tweak that offering slightly, or provide something on the back end, as you do with your insurance products by, through the donations, you're able to make a much bigger impact. So yeah, I completely agree with you there.
Consumers care. I think consumers want to do good. Like the average person does want to do good, and they might not think about what their insurance company is doing. So how reassuring to know that your insurance company is also actively trying to do good. Yeah, I completely agree with you.
What was the moment when you realized that this was the work that you wanted to do? You mentioned that you were in the nonprofit for a while, in the nonprofit world, or that's the world you came from, and then you moved to a for-profit. Was there a moment when you realized actually this is more in line with what I want at this point?
The transition was very surprising to me. It's not something I ever thought I would do. I founded a nonprofit when I was 16, a breast cancer awareness organization in memory of my mother, and I very much believed that I was going to stay in the nonprofit sector. But then I found out about Lemonade's business model, and I quite literally just fell in love with it. I didn't think it was possible for a for-profit company to do that much good. So I was like, oh, I've got to find out a bit more. And then when I joined, I realized it was possible, and it made that transition a lot easier. So I think it was like when I found out about the B Corp model, about public benefit corporations, seeing this balance, and like you said, acknowledging the power that for-profits have and the responsibility they need to be taking. So when you see a company that's doing that, it's really inspiring.
Absolutely. And I agree with you. And yeah, thank you for sharing that story. I think it's amazing when you are able to work for a for-profit, and yeah, you can see that actually potentially you make a bigger impact, because rather than, being one of the nonprofits that receives a little portion of that $900,000 that Lemonade sent to climate organizations, you can actually be part of the solution that drives all of that funding there. And I mean, both sides are important. You can't have one without the other, but there is something, I think, quite empowering to be on the side where you're actually creating a solution that drives the funding to the nonprofits. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. What would you say is next for Lemonade? I imagine there's a lot of ideas. You've been growing substantially in the last 6 years, from 6 people to over 1,000. You're in multiple locations. Yeah, what do you see next?
Just keep doing what we're doing, keep leading in the impact space, keep driving our sustainability goals, keep growing. And I hope that as we continue to expand and our product lines, that we just continue to keep impact in mind. And I have a lot of faith that we will.
Yeah, especially considering what you're going through right now with the B-Corp certification. Yeah. If you're doing that, then I think I imagine you're going to be sticking with it for a while.
Exactly.
Yeah. And for anyone who's interested in learning more about any of the topics we talk about, or even getting, if they're reviewing their insurance policies or haven't thought about insurance and want to learn more about what policies are available and what can be covered, where can people learn more about Lemonade and everything that you're doing?
Just go to our website, check out our Instagram, www.lemonade.com. And then if you want to learn about the Giveback, it's lemonade.com/giveback. You can find our social impact efforts there. And you have our they're impact reports, but they're designed in-house. They are impact reports with a twist. So I really recommend everyone checking out those landing pages.
Awesome. Well, Nina, thank you so much for your time and for going through this with me today. I think the work that you're doing with Lemonade, as we've talked about, is fantastic, because the for-profit, as we just talked about, being able to drive not just innovation in a space that has been probably the same for hundreds of years. Insurance has been around for a while and probably hasn't changed too much, but yeah, you're completely, through the work that you're doing, you're completely innovating and disrupting it, which is fantastic. But you're also making a lot of impact in the process and doing a lot of positive work for people and the planet. So thank you very much, and looking forward to seeing where Lemonade goes from here.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for having me.